All right, I want to ask you something before we get into today's episode, and I want you to actually think about this answer. And I don't want you to just kind of let it go wash right over you, but I really want you to think about this. Where are you in your real estate career right now? I'm not talking about where you want to be in the future, not where you were 2 years ago, but right now, today. Because in my 22 years in this business, I've come to believe that every single agent, it doesn't really matter what market you sell in, it doesn't matter what state you work in, no matter how long you've been licensed as a real estate agent, you are somewhere inside the 6 phases that we're going to talk about. And I'm going to walk you through all of them because I want you to be aware of where you potentially are in your real estate career. My name is Raanes, and this is the Flight Plan. I've been an agent for over 22 years. I'm a top 2% producer in production. I'm also the founder of the Texas Rockstar Group here in the Woodlands, Texas. And if you haven't heard episodes 1 and 2 yet, go back and start there. But if you're ready to find out exactly which phase you were in your real estate career today, stay right here because this episode is going to be directed directly to you. The first phase in the real estate flight plan is called the gate. And this is for the brand new licensee or someone who's been licensed for a while and they're still unsure. I don't want to say they have zero clue because they might have some, but it's an agent who's still struggling to try to figure out where they need to be. So I want you to think about this, how we're going to put this together. So imagine phase 1 is the gate. Imagine that you're standing in an airport terminal. You've got your ticket in your hand and you've got absolutely no idea where you're going. You are looking around for signs, and yet you're still confused about the correct way to proceed to the gate. So, and this is the same way in real estate. Most agents, when they pass the exam, you get your license, then you sit down at your desk on day 1 and you thought, okay, now what? Well, I remember that feeling like it was last week because at that time I was trying to figure out what brokerage I wanted to go to, which one could I align with. But I think the most important thing about getting out of the gate is that I wish someone had told me that just showing up is half the battle. I want you to get into the game today, and I want you to do it every single day. I got a good friend of mine in the real estate business. His name is Brian Matheson. We've been good friends for a long time, and he absolutely loves this quote: massive action beats perfect planning. So you got to show up, you got to do the work, and you just got to make sure that you're doing it every single day. Because here's what most agents that are in this gate, the phase 1 part of your real estate career, most agents want all of their marketing collateral to be absolutely perfect before they even begin to start having conversations. And we can always work on our collateral. Heck, I'm still working on mine today. I have a great Canva account, man. I'm always in it, kind of messing around, almost to the point of detribution to myself because I'm not spending enough time doing the things that I know I need to be. I'm still trying to perfect some of the things that I want to create for the public consumer to see. And here I am still in the business 22 years. So I would say agents that survive phase 1, they're the ones who stop waiting to feel ready and they start doing the work right away. I want you to think about ready as a myth in real estate because action is the only cure for the phase 1 agent. And if you're in this phase 1 where you're trying to work on your first deal, your second deal, your third deal, there's a lot of confusion about all this. Mentorship is important. You have to tie yourself into somebody that has some experience and is willing to help you through that. And here's the key. If you do the work and you make it to phase 2, this is where it gets really hard. So phase 2 is what I'm going to call, it's kind of the takeoff. It's the launch. It's the grind that nobody warns you about. So if you've ever watched a plane leave the ground, I'm sure you've been on an airplane before, but takeoff is the moment where the plane gets the maximum resistance. The weight of the plane's trying to hold it to the ground. The wind coming over the wings is trying to lift it. The engines, man, they're running at full power, and the whole plane is vibrating, trying to take off. And as you're shaking and shaking and shaking, you're thinking to yourself, is this thing ever going to really get off the ground? Well, that is year 1 in real estate for most real estate agents. And it's the phase where the majority of the people actually get out. So the biggest problem with the second phase is the financial responsibilities in year 1. When people tell you there's this great opportunity for you to go out, just go out and show homes and see everything, they forget to tell you about all the startup costs. So you've got MLS dues. Some agents go out and they try to figure out what they can do for their websites. They've got CRMs that they've got to get connected to so you can make sure your databases are all functioning properly. You've got business cards. You've got advertisements that you put on social media. You've got networking events that you've got to go to. You've got client coffees that you have to take care of. And when you're inviting people to go out and tell them all the great things that you're doing, all of these things can become super, super expensive and monthly at that. So here's the key. You have to create a daily discipline, and this is what separates agents in this phase of your real estate career. Gary Keller always talked about the discipline of lead generation and living by red light, green light. And what I mean by that is if you have the money, you can green light your expenses. And if you don't, you got to stop spending money. And if you don't, you will always feel behind the curve and feeling like you've got to pay down debt only to get back in debt because of this one thing, the mindset shift. And here's what I mean by that. The mindset shift is you've got to start thinking about lead generation is a must do. You got to do it 3 hours every single day. Think about it this: either you have time or you have money. And if money is tight, you've got to do the tasks. So I would say when you're first getting out there and you're in this phase 2 and you don't have a transaction in place, don't stop lead generating. Spend 8 hours doing it. You can't automate everything. You've got to still make phone calls. You still got to go out and network. You still got to get connected to the people that could potentially hire you to sell or purchase some real estate. And so this is critical in this takeoff phase. You either got time or you got money. If you got time, all you got is time. And if you got money, you can actually get some leverage to support that. And we're going to talk about leverage down the road. What an agent in phase 2 should be doing immediately is you've got to stop making excuses. I have heard it all. Agents get so caught up in the distractions of the family. They've got distractions in doctor's appointments. They've got distractions because their car wouldn't start. They've got distractions because a title rep called and asked them for coffee. A lender called and asked them for lunch. And they feel like those are important to do. And I'm not saying that they're not, because you have to establish relationships with the vendors that are in your world. But at the end of the day, if you're not lead generating, you're not going to be making any money. And you're going to end up finding yourself on this perpetual roller coaster that is hard for agents to get out of. So if you're in phase 2 right now, hear me on this. The agents who make it through this takeoff don't have more talent. They have more stubbornness because they're willing to keep the throttle down and they're ready to keep the accelerator on the ground. They want that plane to take off, and they're not going to come up with any excuses as the reason why it shouldn't do that. So, and when all this happens and it seems like it's in good shape, you're going to find yourself in a phase that feels like a reward, but actually the sneakiest trap in the real estate business is the next phase. And we call that cruising altitude. So cruising altitude is the comfort trap. Comfort is kind of one of those things where you kind of get your business kind of underway. You've accomplished your lead generation activities. You've found some buyers. You've found some sellers. You start cashing a couple of checks. All of a sudden, it feels like your business is starting to become successful. Your phone is ringing. Referrals are coming in. You kind of find your rhythm in things, and you kind of feel like you know what you're doing, and you kind of get that feeling that's comfortable. There's a contentment to this, and everything kind of seems consistent, and everything is as it feels fine. And this is exactly what will kill your career if you let it. Because here's what happens in that. When you believe that you've arrived and that business will naturally find you, and you stop lead generating, you stop marketing. Maybe because you're working on catching up on your bills, or maybe because you're spending some money on a new car that you have a big note on. But those checks come in and you're spending them on bills and maybe to get caught up, but you're not reinvesting that money back into your business. So all that hard work, you're just kind of tired of it. You're tired of all that different types of activities that you've been doing. Now you're feeling run down and you're just hoping that naturally this business is just going to keep coming in. Well, I caught myself on that same autopilot plan in my 4th year. And this was after my first year after joining Keller Williams. I invested heavily in my business. I was doing all kinds of things. My daughter was young, and I was spending money like it was going out of style. And we actually had some pretty big checks come in. I had a $60,000 commission come in at one point in time. And you get this overconfidence that somehow or another that you've made it. And I just kind of felt like it would always be that way. And this was, keep in mind, this was late 2008. Ellie was born in October. First part of 2009, we had a couple of opportunities from some guys that moved back into the Woodlands and bought some really nice properties. And I just thought, man, we've got it. I had a little money in the bank, and I kind of went into cruise control mode. And that's where life changes. This is where your cruising altitude can become very, very dangerous. And I stopped prospecting. Agents stopped prospecting. They stopped learning. They stopped going to classes because they feel like, hey, I've got 15, 20, 30 deals under my belt over this period of time. I feel like I know what I'm doing. I've made a little bit of money. I've made it as a real estate agent. And at the end of the day, stopping prospecting is what hurts us the most. It creates this momentum. And what we end up on is kind of like this perpetual roller coaster. And what I mean by that is that we'll show up when we need to. We'll do the work. We'll send emails out. We'll make some phone calls when we don't have a deal in place. And we'll work really, really hard until all of a sudden, boom, we get that guy that says, hey, I'm ready to go buy. We get that seller that says, come list my property. We go out. We stop the prospecting. We spend a week either going out, showing homes. We'll catch up on that lead generation next week. I got some business to take care of with this new listing. I got all the photos and the prep and the this and the marketing. I'm going to spend time doing that, not lead generating. I'm not looking for the next opportunity. So while we're working really hard to make sure that this fresh opportunity reaches the finish line, we're putting this other part of our business in the saddle, and we're going, you know what, we're just not going to mess around with that. And what'll end up happening is that buyer decides at the very end that, hey, I'm probably not going to make a purchase just yet. I haven't quite found the house I'm looking for. Or they put a home under contract, it goes through the inspection process and it drops off. Or a listing comes up, you spend a bunch of money getting it ready to go in the market. You're putting all this stuff on credit cards. I know, I've done it. What ends up happening is the seller doesn't sell the property because they felt like they wanted to get more for it. You've invested a couple of $1,000s plus a ton of hours into getting it all marketed, and all of a sudden, nothing happens. So that's an investment in $0. That's not a very good return. So you start riding the roller coaster. When you got an opportunity, you work really hard to make sure it closes, but you're skipping out on all of opportunities from the hours of lead generation time. So if you think about it, 3 hours a day, that's 15 hours a week. That's not a lot of time to be spending making sure that your pipeline is consistent. You have to lead generate to get clients. When you get a client, we stop lead generating, thinking that we're going to devote all this time to that client, and then we just hope and pray that that deal closes. And if it doesn't, well, trouble happens, right? So this cruising altitude is really not your final destination. It's a rest stop. So you can get to a spot where your business feels comfortable, but you still got to spend that 15 hours at least every single week on lead generation. And the agents who will treat it like it's a part of their business, with a consistent part of their business, those are the ones that make it through. And the ones that don't, those are the ones that get blindsided, because the next phase is what always seems to happen. And it doesn't ask for your permission. It just shows up. And this is what I mean by phase 4. It's called the turbulence phase. And this is the phase that actually breaks agents, or it builds them. And this was phase 4 for me at this time in my career, was super important because this was in 2008, 2009. I was kind of in that comfortable mode. And then all of a sudden, bam, I got to spend more time being a dad. Bam, the stock market collapses. Boom, we've got challenges all over the place because you've got situations where the insurance industry collapses. You've got the auto industry that's about to go under. You've got people losing jobs left and right. 2008 was a tough time. And now all of a sudden you have valuations that are dropping. Sellers don't have equity to sell, so they're kind of fighting that. So they take their house off the market because they just don't know what to do. You got buyers scared of buying properties because they don't want to overpay. It's not that far different than what we've experienced the last couple of years, but sort of different. So at that point in time, every agent who's built something worth having has a phase 4 story. And here's what really took mine in place. I had 3 of these turbulent phases during my career. And so when Ellie was born in October, she was born premature. She was almost 5 weeks early. She only weighed 5 pounds, and she had to spend a week in the NICU. And so, while all this is going on, you're still trying to work your deals, but you kind of cut out lead generation because you want to take a break because your daughter's born, your first daughter. And so you kind of want to make sure that you're there, a little worried that, she's a little premature. So yet, you still got to figure out a way to push through. All these situations are going to happen. Something is going to come up medically. Something's going to come up with you, so a family member. There's always a financial challenge that's going to come up. Most real estate agents, including myself, we don't budget for the varying levels of income. And when it comes in, you might have a month where you have a really good month. You might have a month where it's really slow, but we don't know how to budget accordingly. And that's some things that we're going to talk about later on in different flight plan podcasts. But budgeting is something that's really, really important. But here's the deal. While the stock market was crashing, while homes weren't selling, buyers weren't out constantly looking for properties, I had to make a shift. And so what I did at that point in time was I looked at real estate as an opportunity. And so I thought, well, the guy that's buying a house to live in isn't necessarily going to be my client. I need to find investors. Investors are a completely different real estate model. Most investors have specific amounts of money that they want to spend. So they're not going to feel comfortable about being in an overbuy position. They're really looking for the seller who is really interested in selling their property at a discount, and they're willing to buy it. And they bail people out of situations that might feel a little uncomfortable. But what I did during that period of time was I started looking at hundreds of homes every single month. And what I found was I learned so much about the inventory in separate neighborhoods. I had searches set up inside the MLS where every time a new listing would come online, I would know what the price per square foot was, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms. And through this process of seeing properties and trying to create offers for some investors, we were literally going in and determining everything that was needed in a home. And I learned a lot during that period of time, just in what kitchens cost, what paint costs, what siding costs, what roofs cost, what bathrooms cost, what flooring cost, what lighting packages cost. And so we were quickly able to determine, just by walking in a home, that it was rated an A, B, C, or D type property. And we could create budgets based on the square footages for each of those varying degrees of properties. So that helped me not only help some of my investor clients, but it helped me get into the investment strategies in buying and selling real estate as an investor. And so it carried me through this turbulent time that I had in 2008, 2009, when the market seemed like it wasn't going well. I actually took it and turned it into a positive because I knew properties were still selling in the Houston market. I just had to make sure that I was the agent representing either the seller in that process, possibly a short sale, possibly a potential for pre-foreclosure property, or I was representing the buyer who was trying to get the best deal possible. Even builders were giving investors great deals just to clear out inventory during that period of time. So it was an extremely difficult time. I really struggled with how to take care of my family. It wasn't easy. And to be honest with you, I actually started thinking about whether or not real estate was going to be in the future for me. I was 5 years into it. I had a history of transitioning careers from all the different businesses that I've had. And I felt like this was a very critical moment. And thank God for a couple of home investors that kind of helped me through that period of time. I was able to continue to feed my family and help them make a little bit of money. And that's when I changed my logo or my slogan. So I wanted people to build wealth in real estate while they slept. And that meant that they had equity in properties. They were able to purchase equity with the purchase of the home, or sell it and gain it because of the work that they did from the flip side of things. So it was really cool. It was a situation where I realized at that point in time I could handle just about anything involving real estate, whether it was residential purchase, residential sale, uh, investor clients, luxury clients, first-time home buyers. I even dabbled in a little bit of commercial at the time to kind of get started into that. And I realized I'm really, really good at this, and I'm able to help clients figure out exactly where they need to be on the sale side or what they need to do on the purchase. And I helped them buy really, really good homes, not a bunch of homes that just looked good or they had some kind of what we would call lipstick on a pig. So I am very successful today in the real estate business because of what happened in that 2008, 2009 timeline. I survived that turbulent time because I dug in, I went to work every day, I showed up, I spent a ton of time lead generating, and I guarantee you I was putting more miles on a car driving to all of these homes that, some we weren't able to make it work, but I learned a boatload about it. And I would encourage agents that no matter what stage that you're in, you have to see inventory. You have to schedule properties. I know people say, well, I don't have a buyer. Why am I looking? Well, I can tell you this story too. There was a property that I had recently seen at that period of time. We were running some different advertisements for investment properties, and I got a call from a buyer who described a home that I had just been in. And because of all that legwork that I had done on the front side of things and all those properties that I was able to see, I knew exactly what that buyer was looking for. And a home that I had seen previously was still active for sale. I described it to him, told him where it was, what school district it was in, what it needed for the improvements, where I thought the home could be bought for. They were excited because they were a retail buyer. They weren't an investor buyer. They were going to buy it, fix it, and live in it, not sell it for a profit. They just wanted a home to live in, and it worked out beautifully for them. But if I had not seen those properties, I would have had to start the process all over with them and trying to figure out exactly what they were looking for, load them up in a car, go drive them all over town. But we only saw that one property, and it actually worked out perfectly for them. So surviving phase 4 can be very, very tough. So here's some things I want you to think about. I want you to keep your hands on the controls. Do whatever you have to do. Don't let go of the business. Even if you're closing one deal a quarter instead of one a month, you've got to stay in it. Secondly, let people help you. I did. I let other agents help me. I let other agents help me by letting me list or host open houses. I let other agents help me by following them on some of the things that they were doing. I looked at some other agents that were really heavy in the investment side of things. They let me plug away with them, and I learned a boatload of stuff. So I was always learning. And the agents who will try to do this all alone are the ones that usually don't land very softly, and they feel like they can do it all by themselves, and that just doesn't always work that way. And third, I want you to remember that your business was built for these types of times. If you're doing it the right way, you can withstand these. The more structural integrity that you're building into your business, the more structural integrity you build, the better off you're going to be. And this turbulence doesn't just have these extreme highs and lows. It might test it, but it won't break it. And that's what's really important. So just remember, if you're in phase 4 right now, and I know that some of you are, you're in these turbulent times, and you know exactly who you are, I want you to hear this directly. You're not alone. It's not the end of your career. This is what's going to define your career and what's going to make your career really, really something special. Because the agent that you become on the other side of this turbulence is the agent that you could never have been without it. You learn so much more because of it. So stay in the plane, the storm will get past, and when on the other side, everything is okay. The next phase, once you've gone through all this turbulence, now you're in the top of the climb, right? You're above the clouds. You're kind of floating along, and this is where everything is great. You're now a top producer. You're a brand builder. You've got leverage opportunities, and this is where I want you to think about what does a top producer look like? I would tell you that becoming a top producer is different, but it's not in ways that you think it is. It's not like they just sit around and the phone's constantly ringing and all they're doing is sitting around writing contracts and listing agreements and everything else. Because I will tell you that the top producer is going through a lot of mental gymnastics. They're trying to figure out what they're going to do and how they're going to be able to handle all of these. There's increased hours. There's more conversations with the clients. You think about having, 2 or 3 clients at a time. Imagine magnifying that out to where there's 4 or 5 or 6. You've got 4 or 5 listings that you're managing. You're managing 4 or 5 buyers at a time, and having to work through all of those scheduled discussions with each of those clients is really important. And I will tell you that some of the problems that I experienced in that period were trying to create the perfect schedule. I winged it a lot. I didn't have the right schedule. I felt like I had to go in earlier because I wasn't getting my work done. And it's because I'd lost focus. I was still lead generating, but not nearly as much. I was still trying to figure out all of the things. So a client would call me at 7 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock at night, and I was just answering the phone. I was doing everything I could to keep the wheels turning, because at that point in time, I was trying to figure out what my leverage opportunity was going to look like. I started thinking about building a larger team and that I had to build this big team. And so phase 5, what makes phase 5 possible is that you get to create leverage in different ways. You can now start to share some of those opportunities with admins. So some of your income levels, you can hire executive assistants. You can get buyer's agents to show some of your listings. You can actually start hiring listing agents to help you with some of the calls because your marketing is really well. Do you hire an additional marketing agent to make sure all of that stuff stays successful? Do you have a transaction coordinator? And here's what's interesting about all this stuff is if you're not careful building a team, I've built several teams. I've had success in the process. I've had to bring them back down because I got too many. I've had agents that underperformed, agents that overperformed, and I've got agents that just will drain you because they're just constantly looking for support and they're not willing to really learn. They kind of want you to do it all for them. I never wanted to see somebody fail, so I would spend a lot of extra time with those particular agents. So phase 5 is where the most important part of your career finally shows up. It's not how do I make more money, because you just can't continue to work more hours. The question is now that I've built it, what am I going to do with it? So your branding's great, all your business model's great. And for me, this kind of put me into step 6. And this is where you start the pay it forward process. So this is the final phase. And I would say this is for the KW times, it's level 7. It's where you're trying to build a machine that's working, and then you're just managing all of this. This is where your legacy piece kind of comes into play. So for me, I wanted to make sure that as the team that I was building, was it being successful? Was I able to help the agents accordingly? And was I able to put a system in place that would allow them to be happy with where they were with their family and the things that they were doing? So I would say the first thing that I wanted to do when building a team is I wanted to create somebody that I could enjoy the process with. I think that for me, I became kind of the guy who said, here's all the success that I've had. I want to show others. And I think that's what most team leaders do, is they want to take the success that they've had and provide that as an opportunity for others to do that. So that became really important for me. One thing that I wish somebody had really kind of put in my business plan in day one would be that just, we talked about this earlier, is you got to show up. But the one thing that I think was be most important for what I wanted in my real estate career was just knowing that I was very, very capable. I was trustworthy. I was honest. I wanted to do the best job, and I didn't make it about money in this whole business. I never made it about money. And I always wanted to say to another agent, money's important, but if you put the people first, the money will follow. And so creating this opportunity for business is wonderful. I want to take this opportunity with this podcast to share all the great things that I've done with my real estate career. I no longer have a truly sales team. I do want to create something like that where we can work together with a few other agents and kind of building out another brand again. That's coming up. We'll talk more about that down the road. But just a reminder, here's those 6 phases again. You've got the gates, getting just started out, man. You got to get going. Next is the takeoff phase. You're kind of got ramped up. You're getting off the ground. Once you get to cruising altitude, everything seems to be fine. All of a sudden, you've got turbulence that strikes. There's another phase of your career. You reach the kind of the top. You get through all the turbulence. Things are going really well. You're at that top of the climb phase, and then you get to this pay it forward phase. And it's a wonderful 22 years that I've had doing this business. I love every aspect of it. I love the people that I've been able to help. I've made great friends in the process. And I just know that every single person is in somewhere in this map, flight map right now. You know where you are, and you can look at this and say, that's me, that's where I am, and this is where I want to be able to help you. Those agents who can actually do something about the situation that they're in are the ones that I want to reach out to. Those are the ones that I want this podcast to help, is the people that want to continue on this flight, on this journey, and do it in a way that becomes career oriented. And I want to help you through all the bumps and bruises and all the different things that are going to happen, because Lord knows I've had them, and I've struggled. I've been on my knees. I've been broke. I've been doing well. I felt really good, and all of a sudden, things happen. Not only with Ellie, but later on, I've had another bout of a turbulent times. Remember, we talked about the cancer things that I've been going through. Being blind in your right eye, trying to create your right vision isn't the easiest thing in the world. And right now, there's more things that are going through from a turbulent perspective for me, is that, because of the side effects of being blind, your body starts to shift. Plus, at 62, you just got things that you've got to deal with. So it's all good. But this is why I built this show. This is why I want to talk to you guys about the different places that you can be in your real estate career. And we're going to talk how to blast through all of those. So here's one thing that I'd really like for you to do. If you're listening to this, I'd like you to send me an email right now. Just open up your email. It's Rick Raanes, RickRaanes, Realtor @gmail.com. Rick Raanes, Realtor @gmail.com. And I want you to send me an email that just says, I want to know what phase I'm in, or just type in phase. Where am I on my flight plan? And I'm going to email you a link for you to fill out. It's a 9-question survey, and it'll kind of help you pick and identify the phase that you're in. And I want to help you with whatever phase that is, and we can do this together. So subscribe to this to make sure you're getting all the fresh channels. I'm learning how to do this. Please help me with all this. If you've got suggestions on things that I'm doing or things you'd like to know about, please let me know. Looking forward to hearing more about your business, and then looking for more opportunities to share some great things with you in the upcoming weeks. So you know what to do. Send me that email, and remember, take care. And as always, let's prosper together while we're on the same flight plan. Y'all be good.